This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics. I'm Roby Brock, joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette.
Good to be here.
Happy 200th anniversary to you.
I'm not that old. It's the Arkansas Gazette, however, where I was gainfully employed for many happy years, celebrating its 200th.
It was a big celebration.
It was,
there.
yes.
You took a trip to Northwest Arkansas last week to visit the Northwest Arkansas Democrats. Was it senior Democrats?
It was the senior Democrats. I don't get a lot of millennials asking me to speak, but the seniors still like me, yeah.
What is the temperature of Democrats in Northwest Arkansas? What did you learn being up there?
Well, they said it was an unusually large crowd, and I think that that either represents enthusiasm or for the political situation or for their speaker, but I don't know which, and I'm too modest to say. But there was a lot of enthusiasm. I tamped some of it down with my remarks, being the way I am. I told them I'm not a Democrat, I'm a columnist who tries to tell the truth and often therefore sound like a Democrat. But as an American, I think you Democrats got one job, and that's to beat Trump. And he's willing to beat himself if you'll just let him. And then I proceeded to systematically dismiss nearly every candidate for president that they have. So that was a bit of a downer for some of them. But
which candidates did you leave in the mix?
Really none. Well, okay. Which two did I leave in the mix? Biden.
Okay.
I think he's still got the best chance to be competitive. And I am mildly curious about Bloomberg, that this idea that he has that Warren and Sanders and Biden will split the first three states and the Super Tuesday with 14 states, including California, Florida, Texas, with his money. And he's just, how much money did he just lay down for?
$30 million.
That's not a bad strategy. So that's what I said. And I irritated some millennials who were there with their grandparents for the speech, because they think this whole idea of just of Democrats just trying to be passive and beat Trump, let Trump beat himself, and not aggressively attack student loan debt or the climate is what got us in this mess to start with. There's a big generational divide. I know you know this, yeah, between millennials and boomers. So there was that.
We had a whole week full of public hearings on this Trump impeachment, and we learned more about Ukraine than I ever thought was possible to learn about Ukraine. And then comes another development over the weekend that our own Bud Cummins may have some sort of Ukraine connection here. What's the story? Well,
the story is, it's convoluted here. Let me just be as quick as I can. Over the weekend, Lindsey Graham is working on something to try to keep alive the Biden element of Ukraine, to try to change the subject to that. He got a public letter from Giuliani saying there is a well-respected former U.S. attorney who has some information on this. Talking Points Memo, a left-leaning news-gathering organization, happened to have been in Little Rock or calling around Little Rock 2 or 3 weeks ago, developing a story about Bud. They knew to whom Giuliani was referring, so they went ahead and broke their story at 1:05 p.m. on Sunday, a strange place strange time. The story is basically this. In September of last year, September of 2018, for one reason or another, Bud Cummins was approached by two intermediaries for the Prosecutor General of Ukraine who wanted his help in getting America interested in allegations of scandal involving the Bidens, that Hunter Biden was taking bribes through this gas company to influence John Kerry and his father responded to the influence by calling for the resignation of the prosecutor investigating the gas company. The things we all know and have been largely discredited. Bud Cummins took that information and emailed it to the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York in Manhattan. Never heard anything back. Upshot of it is, the former U.S. Attorney and leading Trump supporter in Arkansas, Bud Cummins, who we all know, is suddenly in this cast of characters, either as sort of an innocent bit player who was just passing something on, or he's the first American ever to spread in America the largely discredited allegations which are now at the heart of the likely impeachment of the president. So that's what broke yesterday. And Bud was a little nonplussed by the whole thing when I talked to him. He said, and there'll be eye rolls at this, he said, hey, I'd like to think that I would have done the same thing, just pass on information I don't know if it was against Donald Trump Jr. That's what he says. But surely there's more yet to develop on this, but that's what happened yesterday. And it was, you're just thinking, really?
Right.
Here's Bud all of a sudden on a Sunday afternoon.
Well, and we see the congressional inquiries too now. You mentioned Lindsey Graham kind of chasing something on this Biden thing. Well, why answer this question for me? If Biden was so problematic, why did it not become an issue until after the Republicans had control of the House and the Senate?
Biden was not problematic. Here's the thing. Hunter Biden may be no account. He may be an ethical wasteland. He may have cashed in on his father's being the vice president. It has been well established that Joe Biden had nothing to do with that other than, as he says, saying to his son, I hope you know what you're doing in Ukraine with his gas company. And his son said, trust me, Dad, I do. Well, but otherwise, Biden was in Ukraine, and he has expressed coordinated American policy through the State Department and the administration that this prosecutor is corrupt, and you need to get rid of him. Everybody has concluded Joe was not in on any sort of conspiracy. He was expressing Obama's view, Kerry's view, the Secretary of State's view, and an American view that was shared at the time by Republicans in the Congress. But now that this news tightens a little bit on their president, they're going to revive that and say the real scandal here is the Bidens. So that's what that's all about. Yeah. And here's Bud showing up at least on the periphery of it for our interest here at home.
Sounds like column fodder for John
tomorrow.
Brummett. Yes,
tomorrow.
There we go.
Yeah.
Lastly, let's talk about, you had a column on nonpartisan judges.
Yeah.
This kind of is a long-running exercise that you have had, calling for merit selection,
yes,
I think is what you would prefer, versus us electing our judges, which I don't know if the electorate is ready to turn that over. So tell me a little bit about your current issue with nonpartisanship in judges.
First of all, merit selection would be, let me explain, people who want to be on the Supreme Court when a vacancy, Arkansas Supreme Court, for example, when a vacancy arises, and that's what I'm talking about, not all judges, but Arkansas Supreme Court, would make that interest known, and an elite bar committee or legal committee would screen them and rank them as highly favorable or favorable, however that would work, and then forward the acceptable nominees to the governor, who would make the nomination, and then it would be confirmed by the Senate, and then after serving an 8-year term, that Supreme Court member would stand, it's called a Missouri plan, would stand for revalidation by the voters, and if he didn't get a majority running against himself or herself, then there would be a new vacancy and you'd fill them that way. I think that's a lot better. I think this idea of partisan judgeships it's the biggest ridiculous.
Nonpartisan.
Is the biggest charade in Washington, too, by an appointment system, which has been wholly politicized, as the Kavanaugh thing showed. But what set me off this time was our local Trumpian celebrity in residence, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who's going around to well-attended, big crowds of Republican gatherings around the state. And at Hot Springs, at one of them, she got up and said, the 2 votes you really need to make, and this is a Republican gathering, are for Donald Trump and for Barbara Webb, the wife of the state Republican chairman who is running for the Supreme Court. Hey, let's just drop this. This is just classic case of how it's a partisan election. She is running under a Trumpian Sanders state Republican unstated banner, but which is a clear banner if unstated. And I thought Sarah made it pretty clear, so it set me off. Nothing's going to come of this. Barbara Webb is probably going to win because this is a Republican state, and she's got the Republican unstated, well understood banner. But it is a charade, and I don't like charades. I'd rather let's just let them run as Republican or Democrat if that's what we're going to do. But better yet, maybe someday we can think of a way to get our Supreme Court seats filled without this kind of nonsense. We're getting ready to go through a primary season when these judicial candidates are on the ballot. As somebody said to me the other day, the main place you go to be heard during the primary season is Democrat and Republican Party functions. So here are these judges for nonpartisan elections going to these. It's an absurd system, in my opinion.
You write more about it, John Brummett,
Well,
and
I
we
will
will read
eventually.
more about it. And I think
will.
you will eventually sway public opinion to your side.
No, I'll be long gone, but it may happen. May happen.
John Brummett with
right,
the
thanks, buddy.
Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Thank you.
All right.
That's all for today's program. I'm Roby Brock. We will see you next time.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
You'll find us at the end of a lot of long country roads, covering over 60% of the great state of Arkansas. Our 17 electric distribution cooperatives are working day and night to provide reliable, affordable power to over 500,000 homes, farms, and businesses, just like yours. The Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas, your local energy partners.